everybody has a copy of the questions for today, and they're in your bulletins, but we have all 3 weeks of questions outside of Fellowship Hall, and what we're doing is studying a book called Lessons in Truth by Emilie Cady, which was Unity's basic textbook. Now, Charles Fillmore, Unity's co-founder, had been asked to create a series of lessons of his basic teachings, and rather than writing it himself, he remembered a woman who had unsolicited sent him a manuscript, and he liked it, and he was guided intuitively to have her write the basic lessons for Unity. She never once met him, she never once set foot in a Unity church, and there you have it, Unity in a nutshell. Very open-ended, open at the top philosophy, and these lessons written by a homeopathic physician, a woman in the 19th century, it's very unusual, who made spiritual mind treatment the central focus of her particular ministry of medicine. This is really a powerful book, and it really moves us through the different stages that we need to go through in order to become fully realized spiritually. Now today we're talking about the power of thought, the power of the mind. There are 4 chapters here, so we're really biting off a lot today. And the first chapter was thought, the second chapter was denials, third was affirmations, and the fourth was faith. How do these things work together? Well, first of all, you've got to have a mind. You've got to have a means of thought before you can use your mind, before you can open up to faith. And there is a difference between belief and faith. Belief is a function of the mind. Belief constitutes the different belief systems that you hold, create the vessel into which the light of faith can be placed. And it's important to have a vessel. Today I brought in a coffee cup. And you'll notice some things about this coffee cup. It's big. And it's got something written on it. You see what it says, joy. And it's in green and red. So it looks like a Christmas coffee cup. Now you need a coffee cup in order to have coffee. I know some of us like to take it in an IV drip, but you know, you need a container. You don't want to do this. You don't want to do this. You need a container. Belief systems are important. This is the function of your religion. This is a function of the beliefs that you hold. But don't mistake the belief for the faith. The faith is the essence. The faith is that which is transformative. The faith is the essential part that is poured into the cup of your beliefs. And just as this will eventually crack, or the dog will get to it, or I'll break it, or something will happen to this cup, it's got to be replaced. So we also have to be willing to let go of the beliefs that no longer serve us. And I know there are people who say, but I came in here so you'll tell me what to believe. I want a minister or a priest or an authority figure to tell me what to believe. And I just want you to know that within a 10-minute drive, there are 100 churches that believe just exactly that same thing. This is the exception. We think beliefs are important, but beliefs are only the vessel into which the truth, the reality, the faith can be poured. And you've got to be willing to hold your beliefs very lightly. You need to be willing to hold your beliefs as temporary containers into which the light of truth can be poured. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, she talks about this in Lessons of Truth. She said, there's a shortcut to the top of the hill. While there is a good but long roundabout road for those who need it, we prefer seeking directly the Spirit of truth within us that leads us to all truth. And my advice is, if you want to make rapid progress and growth towards spiritual understanding, don't read a lot of books. They only give you someone's opinion about truth. And what you want is a revelation of truth within your own soul. And that can never come about through books. Now this is the universal mind, she calls it. Quiet your intellect for the time being and let that universal mind speak to you. And when it speaks, although it may be a still small voice, you'll know what it says to you is true. So it's fine to read. It's fine to, what did Ron Roth say? He says, don't read a lot of books, just mine. There's a place for books. But understand that the teachings you get here, the teachings you get in a book, the teachings you get in a seminar, or anything in the outer world simply is a signpost pointing your way to what? An inner experience. I am open and receptive to the living Spirit of truth. Together, I am open and receptive to the living Spirit of truth. There comes a time, Charles Fillmore told May Rowland, and May Rowland told Richard Billings, and Richard Billings told me. Charles Fillmore said there comes a time when the student of metaphysics, the student of the intellectual teachings of truth, has to set that aside altogether and move into the intuitive awareness. Now you say, how the heck am I supposed to do that? You've already done it. Anytime that you've been inspired from within, realize that ultimately the authority is within your own being, but learn to cultivate it. We're going to talk about affirmations, but don't just take an affirmation and slap it onto you like a sticker. Imposing a magical incantation from outside of you, from outside in. Instead, move with an affirmation or even a one-word statement of truth and let it move from within you out. Allow yourself to be filled from within out. Now, there's two functions of mind. There's two functions of thinking. In this first chapter we're studying on thinking, talks about these two ways. There's the higher mind and the lower mind. The lower mind, your intellect, is perfectly well suited to do your taxes and to balance your checkbook. But it doesn't know. It is an accumulation of ideas that have been imposed on from the outside in. And it is necessary, there is a function, but if you want to truly move with your spirituality, you've got to move from inside out. And that means being open and receptive to your intuitive guidance, which comes from where? The living Spirit of truth. Thinking is two-functional. The first function is from outside in. The second is from inside out. And what do? This is getting in touch with what the word education truly means, educare, which means to draw forth. To draw forth from within. As Socrates said that everything that you could possibly know already dwells within you. And it's your job, it's the job of an educator, it's the job of anything to simply draw it forth. So use the outer things in your life. Use your spiritual teachings. Use the classes we have and the different things to move you in that direction. Now that's why we got silence on Tuesday night. You say, what am I going to do in silence for half an hour? Well, you're going to listen. Mary Kupferle, my good friend who was a Unity minister, wrote many books. I served the church that she had served for 17 years. I served it for 7 years. During that time she attended, and we went to lunch about once a month at Testa's. She would go to no other place in Palm Beach. We'd go to Testa's, we'd sit there, and during lunch she said one time, she said, you know what I've been doing lately? And I was always all ears because one time she went to a Hindu retreat for a month. This woman, and one time, this is so off topic, but one time she said, you know what I'm doing? I'm checking myself into a codependency treatment center. I don't have that problem, but I want to do some inner work, and that seems like a nice place to do it. The woman was she was a wild woman. She said, you know what I've been doing lately? I said, what? She said, I've been sitting in my listening chair. I don't pray. I don't meditate. I just listen. Be open. Be receptive. Start where you are. Start at the level that you can. Be open to something deeper, something better than, something greater than, something more than the thoughts of your own mind or even the spiritual or religious thoughts that somebody else has suggested to you. Even this one. So thinking has two functions, outside in or inside out. And lift up into that place where you're already one with the answer, where the answer springs forth from the oneness of God. Now, what about your intuition? You've experienced it. You've experienced it maybe at nights and dreams. I remember the very first intuitive dream I ever had was when I was 17 years old and I was in the Youth of Unity and I was dating a girl, my first girlfriend, and she lived 400 miles away and I was going to go visit her, and the night before I left, I had a dream, and she's standing at an altar in a wedding dress with a guy in a tux, and they turn around, and it's not me, and he's looking at me, and she's looking at me, and she's crying. She says, sorry about that, Greg. So when I got there, and she said, I have something to tell you. I said, I think I know what it is. She says, what is it? I said, no, you tell me. No, you tell me. No, you tell me. And I wasn't shocked. It was to set me up so that I was able to handle it. How many people in this room have gotten any kind of intuitive guidance in a dream? Raise your hand. Look around the room. Everybody has the innate capacity for intuitive guidance, but do we listen to it? Are we open to it? it's important for us to be open to this divine guidance. And the way we do that is by creating a space for it. And maybe the way to create a space for it is to empty our cup. I've shared many times that story about Geshe Sopa, the Tibetan monk who was considered so enlightened, and this man came and he wanted to talk to him, a Westerner, about truth, and he was telling him all the things that he'd done. You know, he'd been here, been to this ashram, been to this teacher, believed all these things and everything. Geshe Sopa listened intently and said, "Would you like some tea?" And the guy said, "Sure." Put out a cup and poured and poured and poured and poured. It got all over the floor. The guy said, "It's too full." He says, "Yes, and so's your mind." You know, let go, open. You've got to empty your cup for it to be filled. You've got to empty your cup for it to be filled. Well, then what's the function of all these teachings, of all these beliefs, of all these books and all these classes? There's a function to it. This morning, I went into Lynn's van and stole the shopping list. And she wanted to know where it was. Where's my shopping list? You know what happens when you need to go shopping and you don't know where the shopping list is? It's a very important document. Because otherwise you're going to be spending all your time going up and down the aisles, wondering what you're supposed to get. And you get to the checkout counter and you remember the thing and you get home. So it has a very important function. But what do when you use your shopping list and you're done and you've gotten everything? What do you do with the list? You throw it away. You don't go, "Oh, I worship thee, thou great and holy shopping list." The shopping list, and you say, "Well, wait a minute. Isn't there some function to religion that's more important than that?" Every outer teaching has a function. The shopping list is important. The cup is important. But it is the essence, the content. And that's between beliefs and faith. Faith is that essence which your beliefs can hold. And you got to move past, it's the rote repetition of things. What did Emilie Cady say? For the beginning student, the denials and the affirmations take a large place. Later on, inward guidance will lead you to a higher plane where the rote repetitions aren't needed. Rote repetitions. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't repeat things. The affirmations are powerful things. How many of you read the book Blink? Raise your hand. Blink. It's a wonderful book. Came out a couple years ago, and it talks about the power of mind. It's a very interesting book. And one of the things they noticed was, one of the studies showed that when people wrote down one word of intention at the beginning of the day, they had 50% better outcomes measured by their own self-measurement than if they did 50% better day. You say, "Wow, why don't I experience that?" Well, when was the last time you wrote down a one-word intention? And if one-word intention is powerful, how about an affirmation? Or what we prayed in our song, the Lord's Prayer. Do you know that the earliest prayer ever recorded to our knowledge in human history was an affirmative prayer, an affirmation? The Gayatri Mantra. Some Hindu scholars think it's 10,000 years old. Some Western scholars definitely think it's a couple of thousand years old. It predates the earliest Vedas. What is it? It's in Sanskrit, but when you translate it in English, it's a series of affirmations. And you say, "Well, what's in the affirmations?" When I went through the translation, I found out it's exactly, in the exact same order, the same series of affirmations that Charles Fillmore put in the invocation that we open our service with every Sunday. And there's no record that Charles Fillmore ever wrote about the Gayatri Mantra or knew anything about it. He tapped into what? That intuitive guidance. The same mind that came into whoever wrote that down 6,000, 3,000 years ago, he was connected with it. Let that mind be in you that was in Christ Jesus, Paul wrote. And what is that mind? It's the intuitive awareness. It's the intuitive awareness that is catching the thoughts of God. Affirmative prayer is the earliest form of prayer. And in Christianity, when Jesus was asked, "How should I pray?" he gave them the Lord's Prayer, which we don't really understand. But if you translate it back into Aramaic, it's a series of 50 to 60 words about 7 affirmative, positive statements. 7 affirmations. And they've done studies in the lab where they've tested people's ability to pray and how they were able to affect yeast cells and see if they grow or not. They found that the method of prayer that worked the best, besides silence, which was the most effective, was affirmative prayer. Affirmations are powerful prayers. But how do you use your affirmations? Can you get past the literality of your affirmations into what? The essence of them. The faith that fills the vessel of those words. I've shared about my sister and how she was born with birth defects, and my mom got an affirmation. She'd never heard of that word before. From Silent Unity. You are God's whole and perfect child, aglow with God's light, life, and wisdom. And my sister miraculously was able to walk. She was never supposed to walk. But that affirmation, you are God's whole and perfect child, aglow with God's light, life, and wisdom, says nothing about her legs, says nothing about her ability to walk. It instead was something that my mom used as an ongoing mantra, an affirmation that she did silently and aloud for an entire year, as much as she could every waking moment. And it created what? A thought form. It created an essence. It created an environment into which the healing could simply pour. They've done some studies and found that the "Thy will be done" prayer, that the prayer that's open-ended, actually normalizes things, adjusts things, and doesn't force its will. I've shared before the prayer, I will to will the will of God. Together? I will to will the will of God. And that is a prayer which Glenn Clark said, if you say that 1,000 times, your life will change and it'll never change back. And Jane Hart, who wrote Spiritual Power Tools, did that 1,000 times, and her life began to change when she started using that. Being open to a prayer that's not literal. How about being open to a divine idea behind the thing you're praying for? What is the divine idea behind the thing you're praying for? What is it that would be the essence of what you're praying for? Get open to it. So instead of praying for, a blue Cadillac DeVille, pray for the divine idea of right transportation. Thank you, God, for my perfect transportation. Thank you, God, for my perfect healing. Thank you, God, for the highest good in this situation. But before we can put something in the cup, we have to empty the cup. And those are what we call traditionally in New Thought and Unity denials. And there's been a lot of misunderstanding about denials. People think that denials are kind of like, pretending like something's not there. Myrtle Fillmore said, never deny the appearance of something. We don't deny the appearance of something, she wrote. We deny its power over us. And that's a very crucial distinction. The old joke, and forgive me, anybody in this room who's an ex-Catholic and is scared by this joke, but the Unity minister who died and went to the wrong place and said, "This is not hell and I am not hot." That's that kind of pretending kind of thing. Putting yourself in a consciousness of loosing and letting go. And how do you do that? Well, Charles Fillmore, in the old horse and buggy days, said that you treat your denials like somebody who is leading a team of horses would treat the horses if something blows up in the horse's face and it gets spooked. You don't scream at the horse, "That's not real!" You instead say, "Shh, shh, shh, easy, easy, easy." You do it with that easygoing attitude. Making a decision, making a statement like, "I cast this burden on God and I go free." Take something in your life. Take a limitation in mind or emotion, a limitation in condition, and just say, "I cast this burden on God and I go free." Together. I cast this burden on God and I go free. This has no power over me. This can only bless me. I loose you and I let you go. I fully and freely release you. You can even use visualizations. How many of you have seen The Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit, either movie? What happens with a sword, an elvish sword, if orcs are around, if goblins are around? Glows blue. So Jane Hart taught the technique of imagining maybe a knot or something and a blue glowing sword, slice right through it. Letting go of a thought form. And if that seems too cheesy to you, don't do it, but try something else. Here's one even cheesier. When she was very early in her practice, she said if she had one of these thoughts that, sometimes you do spiritual work and stuff will come up. She'd just go take a metal gun and go, pow. Yeah, I may not appeal to you, but this is a matter of loosing and letting go. Some people write things down and shred it or burn it. They release it. There are two techniques I shared last week, and I'll share them again, that we have sheets of paper right outside of Fellowship Hall. One is called the agitated energy process, and it's on the sheet with a question and answer process. And it's for retraining false beliefs, and it's a great journaling process, releasing the false beliefs and replacing with a true belief. And then the other one is the 7 Steps by Jane Hart, and the sheets are right outside the fellowship hall for that as well. It's a powerful method for releasing those things that are holding us back, whether it's grief, unforgiveness. Sometimes it could be something positive. You know, my daughter Rosalie, until she was 7 years old, we'd go to the playground together and she'd say to all the kids, "Let's play with my daddy, he's the most fun." And I'd play with them, and then she hit 7 and she said, "Daddy, you stand over there." And I realized I had to take her up the 7 steps. I was holding her back. She was my little booty boo. And then I had to let go of that limitation. Lynn and I have taken each other up the 7 steps at least 100 times. You know? Because you don't want to hold somebody back. And you do so. So it's something good that is somewhat limited. Any letting go is letting go of a limitation. And a limitation, somebody said, don't let your shoe determine the size of your foot. You know, it's a belief system will hold you back. I remember when I was going through in a time of immense change about 20 years ago, and I was meditating, and a picture popped in my mind of a snake shedding its skin. A snake shedding its skin. And when I asked, what does this mean? It's, well, a snake outgrows the limitations of its skin. And what happens if a snake doesn't shed its skin? It suffocates. It can't breathe. Instead, the snake must wriggle out of its old skin. And that what I was doing was releasing my old limiting beliefs and moving into a new consciousness. So, denials really are not so much about pretending like something's not there, but instead moving into a consciousness of release, emptying our cup, and letting go of a limitation. And now, unlike in 1890 when this book was written, we have a lot of different methods of doing this. You know, Byron Katie's methods and cognitive behavioral therapy and the ones that I was just mentioning. Affirmations can also be held in a very lighthearted, open-ended way. You don't have to just say affirmations aloud. You can visualize. You could use a God box. You heard of a God box? You know, it's a box where you just put God box on it, and if you're having something you're obsessing and worrying about, you write down your best idea of a solution, and you put it in the God box. Ernest Wilson, Unity's minister, said, what we pray for in Unity is our best idea of the good, or what is in God's sight even better. So you always put down on your sheet of paper, this or something better. One time, I was using my God box, and I'd been working, I was living in a place that was in a big, tall, high-rise condo. And I was in the 8th floor, and everything was great. You know, the unit was just wonderful. I signed a year lease, and a week later they said I had to move out because they'd sold it. Well, I said, I got a year lease. You want to do that? Find me another unit, and it's got to be better than the one I've got for the same price, and you got to move me into it and have everything put away, so I'll just go to work and come back, and it's done. And that happened. 6 weeks later, that one was not on the market, and they sold it. I went, what's going on here? I told them the same thing. I moved up to the 11th floor. They promised me it was never going to be for sale. 3 months later, they told me I had to move. I told them the same thing again, only they said, well, we don't know any places that are for sale or that are for rent in the building. So I got mad. I was really mad. I thought, I'm not even going to say any affirmations. I'm not going to use any. Then I thought, okay, one last time. So I wrote it down on my sheet of paper, and I carried it home to put it in my God box, and somebody stopped me in the elevator and said, I heard that you are being moved out. There's one on the 16th floor. Notice I was going up every time, and for the same price. And on the 16th floor, and they're going to retire in 5 years, and they're absolutely not going to sell. And that's where I lived for the next 3 years. So, God box is a helpful thing. Visualizations. There's things like they call treasure mapping, which was invented in the Youth of Unity in 1928 in Kansas City. The visual prayer of just, taking affirmations and pictures and putting them on a sheet of paper. There's many different ways of doing this, but basically what this is a retraining of the mind. The denial is the emptying of the cup, and the affirmation is creating an environment into which you can fill it with faith. And faith is what it's really about. And what is faith? Well, Charles Fillmore called it the perceiving power of the mind linked with the ability to shape substance. Substance is that God stuff that somehow outforms into our world. It was written about, and this is actually a quote from Plato, but it's in the book of Hebrews. So whoever wrote the book of Hebrews was quoting Plato and saying, everything visible is always made from that which is invisible. And elsewhere, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. That is, it is that which is created from invisibility into visibility from the within out. And the most powerful way to experience this is through the silence. That's why on Tuesday nights we sit for a half hour in silence. And then you can have a different relationship with your affirmations. Instead of using your affirmations as magical incantations that you repeat over and over again, you can instead take them in as true spiritual substance. Charles Fillmore said that these affirmations that you truly meditate on constitute the true Holy Communion, taking in the bread of life, taking in that consciousness that becomes a part of you. So I'm going to invite you to join with me and just take a deep breath and move out of your lower thinking into your higher thinking. Move out of the thinking that is concrete and intellectual and just lift up into the higher mind where you are already one with your answer. And just know that you're lifting up into it. Use the power of your imagination to lift up, like in an elevator, to a higher place. I am already one with my good. I am already in my higher mind. I am already in my higher self. And now let go of all the false beliefs that have held you back. I cast this burden on God and I go free. I loose you and I let you go. I release everything unlike my highest good. And now take into your being the thought, I am already one with my right answer. I am God's whole and perfect child, aglow with God's light, life, and wisdom. God and I are one. And just take a moment to listen silently. Thank you, God, that seeds have been planted, that transformation has already begun. We know this to be true. We not only affirm it, but we lift up into it. And so it is. And let it out. Today in Lessons in Truth, we're covering the topics of thinking and denials and affirmations and faith. But first of all, we have to get our minds in order and realize that our minds function in two very different ways. Often we think we have to impose thoughts from the outside. But the true higher function of the mind is to allow and draw forth the truth from within. And so instead of trying to work from the outside in, work from the inside out and lift up into your true mind, your higher mind. My mind is already at one with the mind of God. Take this as your statement. My mind is already at one with the mind of God. I now let go of everything between me and my intuitive guidance. I now let go of everything between me and my intuitive guidance. I am now open and receptive to my intuitive guidance from the Spirit of Truth. I am now open and receptive to my intuitive guidance from the Spirit of Truth. And to prepare my mind for an infilling, I have to empty my cup. And so I take any thoughts or conditions in my mind, emotions, or life, and I say, I cast this burden on God and I go free. I cast this burden on God and I go free. I loose you and I let you go. I loose you and I let you go. I fully and freely release you. I fully and freely release you. Now I make my mind receptive. Now that I've dropped the ballast of the untrue thoughts, the beliefs that have held me back, I lift up, 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 into my true and rightful mind. I am now open and receptive to the living Spirit of Truth. I lift up into that place where the question is already one with the answer. The problem is already one with the solution. The need is already one with the fulfillment. The prayer is already one with the manifestation. I lift up into that place where everything is one. As Jesus said, God, you already hear. I only pray for the sake of those who are here listening. And so we lift up into that Christ mind, the mind that Paul spoke of when he said, let that mind be in you that was in Christ Jesus. We lift up into the mind. Where we know that which is God already hears, has heard, and is answering and has answered. And we wait in faith and we listen. God, I already know that everything I pray for is already existing in this realm of spiritual substance, this realm of divine love, where the thought stuff becomes manifest. That which appears comes from that which is invisible. The substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen, the perceiving power of the mind. know, I feel it, I believe it, I know this to be true, and so it is.